You know the music from Sonic 3's Blue Sphere stages? That driven, slightly funky beat perfect for collecting orbs that's been stuck in your head since 1994? That song is older than Sonic 3, and it even came from a completely different game. A game that failed so badly Sega pretended it never existed. Come 1992, with Sonic being a wild success, Sega was looking to push the blue blur into every corner imaginable, and that included arcades. They had the trackball-controlled SegaSonic the Hedgehog in the works, UFO catchers, amusement rides like Waku Waku Patrol. What else could Sonic do? Fukio Mitsuji, also known to go by the moniker MTJ, had an answer. This is the man who gave the world Bubble Bobble, Rainbow Islands, and other Taito classics before departing the company in 1989. Now working freelance, he approached Sega with an idea. The pitch? A falling block puzzle game starring 3 differently colored Sonics: blue, red, and yellow. The game was fully developed, but would fail its trials in 1992 throughout Japan. The feedback, apparently, wasn't good. The game vanished, gone, erased, for 24 years. In 2016, someone posted a working arcade board to Tumblr, and suddenly, the Sonic community had questions. A lot of questions. Its name would be SegaSonic Bros. And no, you haven't just forgotten about it. Nobody knows about it. Well, almost nobody. We're going to figure out what the hell this game even is, why players rejected it, how its soundtrack secretly made it into Sonic 3, and why getting the ROM released turned into an internet spat between preservationists and collectors. Alright, I've got the PCB hooked up in this cabinet, and even made my own side art. What do you think? Now then, let's try out this lost piece of hedgehog history by getting little me in here. First off, a little explanation, as I've never seen a puzzle game work like this. It has elements of a color matching game like we've all seen before. The big twist here is you're not simply shoving colors together like Puyo Puyo. The goal is to connect pieces of the same color to section off a portion of the board. Upon accomplishing this, that entire section will disappear. You can do this by making a box, running straight across the board, or even zigzagging. You don't even need to fill in the points that would normally turn for a connection. Open air is fine, and the game accepts that. It's sort of like a marriage between a Match 3 and Tetris. You fill out portions of the screen, but are using blocks of the same color to make it clear. All of this happens while Robotnik chuckles to himself in the center, and the background changes to other Sonic 1 stages. Not that you can really see them around all the gray boards. As you might be able to guess, this mechanic of segregating part of the screen allows you to clear massive sections at once. This has the consequence of the game moving much quicker. The rounds speed up rapidly over 10 levels. 1 minute you're moving slow, and before you know it you're barely hanging on, rapidly rotating Sonics as your eyes desperately scan for a place to land. Then suddenly the game hits the brakes once you cross the line to the 11th level, returning to almost normal speed. Almost is key. It never quite goes back to the beginning pace. Repeat this pattern for every 10 levels. Also, that 10th level will gift you a Chaos Emerald that can be used to clear everything above the line you drop it on. And a 4th block color, white, is added at level 30 for more complication. In writing this out, it really is a difficult concept to explain, and that's probably a big reason it failed its location test. Compare this to what else was in arcades in 1992. Columns, match 3 colors vertically, easy to understand in seconds. Puyo Puyo, connect 4 blobs of the same color. Again, instant clarity. Tsuji's own game, Bubble Bobble, trap bad guys in bubbles and pop them. You get it just from the attract screen. SegaSonic Bros. Requires you to understand spatial encirclement while pieces are actively falling faster and faster. It's asking arcade players who've got maybe 30 seconds to decide if they want to spend a coin to grasp a concept that takes multiple attempts to even see working. This attract screen has Sonic explaining the gameplay in giant word bubbles. Not the best look when your audience is wandering down the row of games. Mitsuji's enclosure idea? It's actually clever. There's genuine depth here. This is the kind of mechanic that could work brilliantly in a home console game where you've got time to learn it, experiment, and fail safely without emptying your pockets. So, Mitsuji brought legitimate puzzle design expertise to the table. The encirclement mechanic isn't bad, it's just wrong for the context. Wrong platform, wrong brand, wrong era. Which Japanese arcade goers were about to make very clear. Sega had a system, location tests. This was common to do for feedback before running full production for games. They'd place prototype arcade cabinets in a handful of locations to gauge player interest and see if the game made money. If players kept feeding it coins, into full production it went. If they walked away after one attempt or credits lasted too long without enough coin drops, the game was quietly shelved. Sometime in '92, SegaSonic Bros. Got its chance and failed. During this time period, only 2 small mentions of it would appear, both in Electronic Gaming Monthly magazines. The first would come in March 1992, likely before the game even began testing.
Sonic will also make sequel appearances in both a cartridge-based game as well as an arcade game on Sega's System C2 that invites multiple players to assume the role of different colored Sonics. Way cool!
It was assumed for a long time that this was referring to Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, and the reporter had misinterpreted Mighty and Ray as alternative Sonics. But now that we know Brothers exists, it likely was these other Sonics. The second mention would spring up from Sega of America's Director of Marketing, Al Nilsson, during an interview in May's 1993 issue.
We have developed 2 Sonic arcade games that have never been released because they were not the specialness that Sonic was. We are continuing to look to see if we can do something with Sonic in the arcade. There is a Sonic arcade project, but nothing scheduled for release.
It's thought SegaSonic Bros. Is one of the 2 mentioned that were cancelled. What that second cancelled game would be, I don't know. Maybe something that never got past the conceptual stages? It could also be Waku Waku Patrol Car that got skipped over for a Western release. The upcoming arcade game is of course the trackball title that we will be discussing in a couple episodes. Then for decades, complete silence. The game was lost to time. The 26th of June, 2014 came along. A tweet was posted. A contemporary testimony from someone who played SegaSonic Bros. During its test period. Koji Kendo, director of the Custom Robo series, would link to some write-ups he made on another social media site called It Tells, which itself was owned by Sega. In these, he detailed his experience playing SegaSonic Bros. During his test run. He starts by explaining the general gameplay, even using dingbats in an attempt to visually show it. After the long explanation, he states, "And I will be having this read out in its full context, since it's important."
As puzzle game enthusiasts might imagine, it was a bit tough, or rather, difficult. Once you make a mistake in placement, your plan is completely ruined, so recovery is very difficult. The fact that the falling blocks come in units of 4 also made it quite challenging. Since any color could be trapped inside an enclosure, the key strategic decision became which color to focus on as you played. The margin of error was razor thin. Some pieces were safe to throw away, while others were absolutely critical to keep. It gave the impression of being an extreme game that was in some ways rough, and in some ways intricate. This difficulty isn't unique to falling block puzzlers. Whenever you introduce surrounding as a core mechanic in any game, players have to constantly track what's happening both inside and outside the boundary while following the perimeter line itself. It forces you to monitor the entire play area at once, which inherently makes for a difficult game. Taking that concept and polishing it into a finished product is no easy feat.
It's the polite way of saying this is a great idea that needed more polish. This post would go unnoticed by the community for years, including the reply from developer Yosuke Okunali showing a screenshot from the game. The exchange was entirely in Japanese. The English-speaking Sonic community, despite being obsessive about prototypes and lost games, more than any other I've seen, just completely missed it. The post sat there, unnoticed. Then, on the 4th of February, 2016, a well-known collector called Showtime posted photos to Tumblr, the title screen of SegaSonic Bros. With a simple caption, "It's the Megaton." The Sonic message boards lit up. News articles were written. What in the world was this game? The common consensus seemed to be it was an early prototype, say it with me, SegaSonic the Hedgehog. with Ray and Mighty replacing the yellow and red Sonics later on. But above all, everyone was stunned, with one user named Sebmal commenting,
"The Sonic prototype/unreleased game community is one of the oldest and most meticulous I can think of. So the idea that someone can just go, 'Here's a new one,' out of nowhere and slam down a game nobody's even heard of is insane to me."
Another photo would follow on the 6th showing the menu screen. This time the caption would be much less coy. "Play with yourself or against your bro," designed by the creator of Bubble Bobble, Fukio Mitsuji. This went to location test and failed. A couple more screenshots would follow, showing that this was a puzzle game. In the middle of all this, on the 5th, Sega developer Shinichi Ogasawara would confirm that SegaSonic Bros. Indeed was never released due to location tests failing.
Mitsuji, the creator of Puzzle Bobble, who seemed to have already left Taito, was involved in the project. But the game didn't perform well in location tests, and thus was never released. Or so it seems. SegaSonic Bros.
Suddenly, those 2013 Japanese posts got translated. People started digging through old gaming magazines. The pieces came together. Now things were about to get messy. Showtime had the arcade board, or PCB for short, but they weren't going to dump the ROM for the internet. Why is that? You see, collectors and investors are often one and the same. Some people just do it for the love of collecting. However, many others are in it as an investment to make money over time on their vault of rarities. They believe that a game becoming easily available devalues their physical item, whether it be through official means or less official means, like ROMs. It's speculated that Showtime was afraid of being blacklisted by the circle they worked within to get rare games, so they held off. But Showtime is a cool cat, so during July 2018, they brought SegaSonic Bros. To a convention called California Extreme for the public to play for a single weekend. Some played it, took some pictures, and confirmed it's real hands-on. Then, back into the vault it went. Fast forward to October, and the game would pop up again, this time on a blog called Arcade Fixer. This time, the owner of the site was contacted by a Japanese collector who had undumped PCPs. Among these was SegaSonic Bros. And a secret unnamed game. It's commonly reported that this collector stopped Arcade Fixer from releasing the dump, but reading the blog post doesn't suggest that to me. It says, "I asked owner if I could send the dumps to MAME, and he's okay, except for secret game." Looking at the list, SegaSonic Bros. Is not a secret game. It's some other title. So I don't think it's this collector that stopped things this time. They seem to have given permission for it to be added to MAME. Maybe I'm wrong. Either way, we wouldn't need to wait long, because on the 26th of November, arcade preservationist Guru would make a blog post stating,
"A couple of years ago, an unreleased Sega C2 game surfaced. It was shown on the net and at some arcade shows and hoarded by the usual people, so no ROMs have become available. Until now, wink face. One of the hoarders even tried to scare anyone else with the ROMs to keep them secret by spreading rumors that the men in black would come looking for them if they leaked the ROMs. LOL. The bottom line is this is another game rescued from the clutches of hoarders and will be coming to MAME very soon."
Their usage of hoarders is of course a slight at the greedier collectors, and they weren't joking on dropping the game. On the 2nd of December, the ROM appeared and support was added to the MAME emulator and swiftly removed? My guess would be due to pressure from someone somewhere. Guru would provide a patch of their own and sign off with,
"You guys are funny. Better luck next time, losers. Oh, and thanks for an excuse to direct an inordinate amount of traffic to my site. It's great for publicity. Thanks, guys. Smiley face."
What a cool dude. The game was now out, permanently, for the world to play, and there was still more to discover. As it turns out, while Sega didn't like the game, they did appreciate its music. Several tracks were recycled into later Sega products, most notably the music that plays during levels 40 through 49 and 90 through 99, which was later used for the Blue Sphere special stages in Sonic 3. A full 2 years before that game came out. The main theme even got a vocal arrangement on the 1992 BB Queen's Sega collab album called Sing. On here, the track was deliberately misattributed to Teddy Boy Blues, another arcade title from Sega, to hide its connection to the cancelled game. Hell, the song is even called Funky Brothers. But that's not all. Other lost tracks would appear in the cell phone title Sonic Darts, a Mega Drive title called Cho Kyokai Miracle 9, and finally, the Sega Channel. SegaSonic Bros. Failed as a game, but apparently the company wasn't about to let perfectly good music go to waste. Within weeks, an unofficial Mega Drive port would be made, since the arcade's C2 hardware was based on the 16-bit system, and official MAME support would be properly added in 2021. Today, you can boot it up right now and play SegaSonic Bros. Now then, to place it on my ranking. Is it actually good or just rare? I gotta be real, I had fun with this game. It's surprisingly easy to stumble into change or clear huge without realizing it. I appreciate that, as someone who sucks at matching games like me can do that. But at the same time, I imagine it'd feel unfulfilling for those really into the genre. I also love the animation of Robotnik getting electrocuted every time you make a match, and going higher depending on the score and combo. It's far from perfect, and I can see why it was cancelled. Like Koji pointed out, one misplacement can send things into a spiral, as the game rapidly speeds up. Any sense of a plan you had vanishing as the pieces stack up in seconds. I had more fun with it than Sonic Eraser, so I'm going to place it above that game, but still keep it in D. I'm not super into puzzle games, so I probably won't play it again. Also, Cleopatra's Fortune did the whole concept a lot better. In the odd situation I want such a game, that's the one that'd get turned on. All of this was a most interesting story, a game that failed in 1992, got hidden by collectors in 2016, and required a preservationist to fight for its release in 2018. SegaSonic Bros. Died twice, once in arcades, again in private collections, and was resurrected both times by people who refused to let it disappear. In a strange twist of fate, I believe the title is more valuable now as a lost artifact than it ever would have been as a playable game. If Sega had released it in 1992, it would have been a footnote, a rejected puzzle title that got buried by better competition. Yet because it failed, because it got erased, because its music lived on in Sonic 3 like some kind of melodic ghost, and because collectors tried to keep it secret, it became legendary. Failure made it interesting. Obscurity made it valuable. And the fight to preserve it turned it into a symbol of why preservation matters. SegaSonic Bros. Was a mediocre puzzle game that turned into a fantastic gaming story.
Here you are, Sonic. If you want to rescue your friends, you'll have to doubt me first.
But Sega still wasn't done with strange Sonic experiments, because next time on this retrospective series, we're heading out to the mall to discover a rare amusement ride. It's SegaSonic Cosmo Fighter, and in this title, we're launching into space to start off 1993. Hey there, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing for more, dropping a comment, and maybe even ring that bell. It really means a lot that you made it this far. And thank you to my guest readers, including Phil's Horrible World, whose channel you can find in the description. He covers lots of unique stuff. This one was interesting to work on since it's mostly history. It felt different to put together. As for any updates, I do have other videos slowly in production in the background. Burnout, a 3DS title, thinking about doing a roundup of ROM hacks even. Not promising that last one. For right now though, I am very focused on Sonic, as I'd like to reach CD this year at least. However, I will be covering Super Metroid before CD, as I believe that will help me quantify my feelings and opinions on the title. Both are about exploration on a 2D side-scroller plane after all. Anywho, that's all for now. Take care everyone. Peace out.